Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to kick off in just a minute our November Lunch and Learn. Today we're going to be having a conversation about kinship caregivers in the Mental Health Association of New York. I've got Megan Spagnola and Michelle Garcia joining me today from MHANYS. So we're going to kick off our webinar. I'll do a little intro as we always do. Just a reminder to folks that are on the line today, you are muted, but feel free to drop any questions in the chat box. Our webinar will be from 12 to 12:30. It is recorded, so it will be available on the Navigator YouTube page, and we will send out a recording and PowerPoint slides to everybody that's in attendance today after the webinar. So I'm going to kick it off. My name is Ray Glazer. I'm the director of the New York State Kinship Navigator Program. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn series if you're brand new today. We host these on the third Thursday of every month. We do a half an hour to an hour overview, a presentation across multiple fields so that professionals and kinship caregivers are able to access services across New York State and learn a little bit more about what's available for our families. In the past, we've done lunch and learns with family court, social workers, school administrators, alternative dispute resolutions. We recently did one on the New York State Library Association, OMH. Our next lunch and learn will be in January 2023. We are going to take off next month since it's so close to the holiday season. So stay tuned for our January and our 2023 calendar schedule of lunch and learns. Any suggestions, feel free to send them my way. We're happy to engage with anybody across the state to learn a little bit more about their services. So as I said, I'm Ray Glazer, Director of the New York State Kinship Navigator Program. I'm just going to give a very brief overview of the New York State Kinship Navigator. We're information, referral, and education all across New York State. We service kinship caregivers, professionals, prospective kinship caregivers in all 62 counties across the state. We are virtual in nature. We have a helpline. We're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 4. We have a website, www.nysnavigator.org. And what we do is we provide information, referral, and education. So we have legal fact sheets on our website that help navigate benefits, the legal system, obtaining vital documents, how to navigate some of those systems, resources broken down by county, kinship resources, youth, aging, county resources. We have our helpline where we do intakes for kinship caregivers. We're able to service caregivers in 37 different languages. Our kinship specialists can do an intake and help provide you with information on your caregiving journey as well as local referrals. We refer to case management programs, support groups. We have a legal referral network, and we also provide education across the state. We provide statewide presentations virtually and in person. We have an online video archive that details common caregiving concerns such as financial assistance, legal permanency, kin gap. And we provide legislative education via the Kin Care Coalition. And that URL is right there on the site. We meet once a month. We are in the midst of developing our 2023 policy agenda, which includes policy asks in terms of legal representation for kinship caregivers, broaden access to benefits, and the 2023 kinship budget. Here's a quick snapshot of our website. As you can see, you've got a map of New York State that gives you access to resources. You've got information on what's happening up in real time. And it's also worth noting that we have an online chat Monday through Friday, 10 to 4. If you would prefer to chat with one of our kinship specialists rather than call the helpline, you have availability to do so right online. The last piece of our program that's new in nature is our virtual case management. Right now, we are working in counties that are not currently serviced by a local kinship program. There are currently 37 counties that are not serviced, and right now we are in 18 of them. We provide virtual case management for kinship caregivers for up to 6 months to give them a hands-on approach with facilitated benefits applications, referrals, and follow-up from your virtual case manager. It's a step above information and referral in those counties that do not have an on-site program. So currently, the counties that are serviced by kinship virtual case management are right on your screen. If you have a client or you kinship caregiver in one of those counties, you don't have to do anything special. You can just call our helpline or send in a permission to contact form, and we will schedule one-on-one with our virtual case manager that services that county. Lastly, our permission to contact form is online. This is right on our homepage. It's a way for professionals to get in touch with us if they have kinship caregivers that they are working with. It's a way for the navigator to reach out to that kinship caregiver without the caregiver having to call the helpline directly. We find a lot of families are overwhelmed by the system, overwhelmed by caregiving responsibilities. So it's a great way to connect that kinship caregiver with the navigator services. We will reach right out and we will talk to that person and make sure that they have access to services. We do it within 48 hours. If it's an emergency, we do it the same day.
Right. I don't mean to interrupt, but we're getting a couple of notes that they can't see the screen. Could you try your share screen again?
Oh, you know what? At this point in time, I'm actually going to move it over to you. So
Okay.
you've heard my spiel a million times. For everybody on the line that has been in attendance before, it's the same material. You will get a PowerPoint for it, but I'm going to be turning it over at this point in time, either way, to Michelle Garcia. Michelle, you should have host capabilities and be able to share your screen now.
Sure thing. Well, thank you so much, Ray, for inviting us and for the introduction. And just give me one moment and I'll pull up our slides so that you don't miss a thing.
Fantastic. Sorry about that, folks.
No worries. Okay.
All right, it looks like we can actually see your screen, Michelle, so you're much better than I am today. As I said, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle from the Mental Health Community Partners, otherwise known as MHANYS, to talk a little bit about mental health. On to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ray. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Garcia, and I am the Assistant Director of the Mental Health Community Partners Program at the Mental Health Association in New York State, aka MHANYS. Just to share a bit about myself, I am a peer trauma survivor. I'm a supporter to many younger members of my family and community who live with mental health challenges. I'm a second-generation Filipino American, meaning I'm the first in my family to be born in the States, and my professional background is in supporting immigrant youth and families. I'm also joined here by my wonderful co-facilitator and program specialist, Meg Spagnola. So Meg, would you like to take a couple moments to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks, Michelle. Meg Spagnola, the Mental Health Community Partners Program Specialist. I come from a clinical background. I'm a CASAC, working most of my career in substance abuse counseling, and changed my career path earlier this year to join MHANYS and the Mental Health Community Partners Program, with the belief that there's alternative treatment methods for mental health and wellness. And I'm really excited to share about this program with you all.
Awesome. Thank you, Meg. Yeah, so we're here to talk to you about how we have been supporting youth and family mental health through MHANYS Family Engagement Programming. We started off with innovations in MHANYS Signature Care Path program, which is most defined by its relational whole family approach to mind-body health for anyone with mental health needs. But what we're going to be highlighting more today is our new program, Mental Health Community Partners, which was born from that same relational whole family health approach to mental health and recovery, specifically for supporting youth or adult family members with a higher level of need. So more significant mental illness as they're experiencing major life transitions. And that can be any life transition, such as moving from a treatment setting back to life with family in the community, or even just simply transitioning in recovery from being unwell to well. All right, I'll start us off by introducing our program tagline. In the Mental Health Community Partners Program, we like to say that we find wellness in partnership with others. So as we all know from our work with the youth and families that we support, and even in our own lives with our families, our relationships are everything, right? Our relationships, especially with our family, they can make or they can break our wellness. And no one can achieve health, wellness, and recovery entirely by themselves, right? We all need support, and we need that support to show up in our lives in healthy ways. So, just think about that. Who here during some of the most difficult times in your life have wished that you've had more support or better support? Who here is a supporter to a loved one, whether it's a child or adult with mental health needs, and wishes that they could have shown up as healthier support to those that they love? And who here has supported a family where you just really think, wow, the caregivers need just as much support as the child, right? I think most of us have experienced one of those categories. And this is what the Mental Health Community Partners Program aims to do. In our whole family mental health program, we're bringing together the person in recovery and their chosen supporters all in one room. We're teaching them the same simple but powerful mental health messaging that will support the youth or family member with mental health needs, and then also support the loved ones so that they can show up as their best selves to be the best supporters and have their own mental health support. And so, if any of you are familiar with our signature family mental health program, MHANYS Care Path, MHCP was developed as an extension of that. So they both have similarities in taking that relational whole family approach to mental health, engaging the primary person with mental health needs, plus their chosen supporters, with the support of a peer or professional who's the partner coach through a structured time-limited program. And you can kind of think of these as working together as tier 1, tier 2 programs. So as the tier 1 program, Mental Health Community Partners supports those with that higher level of need. So those with a serious mental health need or condition, experiencing a major life transition. Again, it can be transitioning from treatment center back to life at home with family or the community. It can be transitioning between caregivers, different homes, different housing situations, or simply transitioning in their recovery from being unwell to well. It's flexible, but it's structured and time limited. So typically we suggest that this is a 90-day or 3-month program. And the primary purpose is to build recovery, a wellness mindset, and the norms, a culture of whole family health during a really critical transitional time. Then, as the Tier 2 program, MHANYS Care Path supports those at any level of need or any mind-body health conditions. And so this can be used to sustain recovery and a wellness mindset once that person in need has become a little bit more settled in their life transitions. And similarly, this program is typically 90 days or 3 months. And so together, these two programs hand in hand offer an amazing opportunity to provide up to 6 months of support for families. And we all know that that amount of constant transitional support can be a game changer and that it's really, really rare. So switching back to our program of focus, that Tier 1, the Mental Health Community Partners. So as we mentioned, this is specifically supporting folks with a higher level of mental health need. And it is a program that requires a level of introspection, communication, self-advocacy skills. And so we do require participants to be at least 12 years of age. However, if you're here because you're supporting children primarily below the age of 12, that's okay. Still keep in mind the whole family system of those you support, right? So MHCP may be an appropriate tool for family members above age 12 that are supporting that youth. And MHCP can even be a support tool for you as a professional supporter. When we were doing our certification trainings, we always say that we lead by modeling. We practice what we preach. So every single activity and strategy that the partner ends up teaching to families, we ensure that we're practicing it first for ourselves. And so we were very surprised, to receive positive feedback that one of the major outcomes of the MHCP program was that it was actually serving as a self-care tool, as a workforce wellness tool for many of the professionals who've been trained in the model as well. And another thing that stands out about the MHCP program is, again, that relational whole family approach, right? And this is embodied in the fact that it's the youth or the adult in recovery that is empowered to select their chosen supporters who are going to participate in the program alongside them. So those chosen supporters, it could be blood relatives, blood family, but it could be anyone that they trust. So a trusted parent, a sibling, cousin, uncle, aunt, their classmate, their friend, or just any trusted adult, anyone who they know they can trust and will support them in meaningful ways. And keep in mind that this is really empowering in itself, right? Because right off the bat, the person in recovery, especially when they're a child or a teenager, they might feel incredibly disempowered in their recovery and their life circumstances, and may not ever had the opportunity to contemplate who is truly supportive in my life, and have that power to choose who is going to be there for them in the program. And as we mentioned, it's a time-limited program, right? So there is flexibility to make it work for the families you're supporting, but we recommend this takes place over 90 days. And it's structured. We recommend weekly visits. And we say that because that's due to the high needs of the family or the support system during those major life transitions, right? So again, we want to provide that reliable, consistent care. So doing those weekly visits. And we're meeting folks where they're at. So whether participants best prefer to meet and do their visits in person, online, or in some kind of hybrid means so that they can Zoom in their chosen supporters from, say, across the state, so long as the mental health community partner is able to accommodate, they can deliver the program through the mode that best meets the family's needs. And now the mental health community partners model teaches and reiterates a few simple but incredibly powerful messages, and that leaves lasting impacts on participants' perceptions of health and wellness. The first core teaching is that mental health is multidimensional, that there's many components that influence our health, right? It's not just our physical health. You have your emotional health too. Your environment will influence your health, your spirituality too. There's many different holistic components, right? And secondly, we're also teaching that recovery exists on a continuum of wellness, that just like your physical health, your mental health is always in movement. It's always changing day to day. It's never static, right? And just because you might have a mental health challenge now, just because you have a diagnosis, it doesn't mean that you're always going to be ill. And this program messaging is not only learned by that primary person in recovery with mental health needs, but it's learned by all of the family members and the chosen supporters too. We said that this program is unique in that we're bringing together the person in recovery and their family, their chosen supporters, right? And they're experiencing the same exact program. They're learning the same exact messaging about mental health and the same strategies to support mind-body health. And so think about just how powerful that is, right? Because when everyone is learning that mind-body health is similar for everyone, it's reducing the stigma, right? It's making it easier to get help and support. So for that person in recovery, the focus is kind of off of them in a way as being that perceived, quote, problem, right? Which is attributing to their self-stigma. And for the chosen supporters too, for many of them, they're finally getting their own mind-body needs met, their caregiver needs and burnout addressed as well. And now we're going to introduce you to a couple of core frameworks that the Mental Health Community Partners Program utilizes. So the first of those is the Continuum of Wellness. And as you can see, this includes stages of wellness, illness, and every point in between, right? So understanding this process of recovery as including all of these different stages between wellness and illness, it really provides a realistic expectation of the process of recovery. And since participants are learning that the development of symptoms can be very typical in the recovery process, they're normalizing it, right? They're not feeling like a failure when those symptoms return. They're gaining an awareness of how to identify their symptoms as they start to feel them. And that way, they're learning how to be more proactive in self-caring and take steps to move towards wellness, right? And so what's most important is that in learning this continuum, participants are learning hope, right? They're learning the hope that they can always take steps to move towards wellness. And we're actually using this every single time that there's a visit. So at the beginning of every visit with families, mental health community partners lead families through a continuum of wellness status check, where we're simply asking, where on the continuum do you find yourself today? And what do you need to move closer to wellness? And even beyond that regular activity, the entire program was really built with the continuum in mind. So every single program activity that we offer is built to support participants at every stage of recovery, whether they're at that stage during their time with you in the program, or they're planning to have these tools in the future when they inevitably are not part of the program, right? So for example, when a participant is developing symptoms, we're taking their wellness temperature, we're encouraging early recognition and support. When a participant inevitably becomes ill, which again, we're reiterating is completely fine and normal, we're offering options, supports, and connections in the community and a crisis plan to help them in moving back towards wellness. When they're involved in treatment and using those wellness tools, we're giving them voice and choice. We're supporting them through mindful practices, and we're equipping them with very specific support tools that work for them. When they're in recovery, we're providing that ongoing engagement, right? We're revisiting the principles of recovery, utilizing their crisis plan. And even when they've reached wellness, we're supporting them through a mind-body maintenance plan, providing self-management tools and more mindful practices, again, to sustain that recovery and wellness. And now I will hand it off to Meg to talk about our next core framework.
Thanks, Michelle. So as Michelle mentioned, the Continuum of Wellness is the first core framework. It's one of the first primary activities that will be done with participants and families. And the second is knowledge and education on the 8 dimensions of wellness. And so some of you might be familiar with this, others may not, and that's okay. But the idea is that we look at a human being as represented by 8 different dimensions. And so you'll notice here they include physical, spiritual, social, intellectual, emotional, occupational, environmental, and financial. And so mental health community partners really incorporates health equity and the social determinants of health through taking a look at each of these 8 dimensions. And this offers a holistic view and a holistic approach of overall mind-body health. Through some of the exercises in this program, we'll explore all of the 8 dimensions of wellness and take a look at how they individually influence our health and our wellness and our recovery process. And ultimately, having more information and having more awareness of how these 8 dimensions impact our health and our wellness will hopefully move them on the continuum closer to wellness. And so we mentioned the continuum of wellness. We mentioned the 8 dimensions of wellness. Those are 2 of the core activities. We also talk about communication guidelines. This is the 3rd core component that's done at every visit with a mental health community partner, the participant, and their chosen supporters. And through reviewing communication guidelines, we take a look at how communication is impacted when somebody is going through a stressful period, a period of crisis, or a transition period. And so through reviewing the communication guidelines, we level set, right? We set some boundaries and we talk about what's appropriate and what's not. How do we want to be spoken to, et cetera. They'll do that continuum of wellness activity. They'll do that 8 dimensions of wellness temperature check. And in addition, we've spelled out a timeline of many other activities. And so the important thing to note here is that we give a timeline, we give suggestions, but when and if these activities are used is really up to the person in recovery and their comfort level with exploring some of these topics. So I won't review them all, but some of the important aspects of these activities is really just exploring where they can go for support outside of the traditional things that we might think of. Mental health community partners is focused on expanding what support means and expanding how we utilize our support systems. And so these activities really highlight that through taking a look at where in the community you can go to for support and how support shows up for you. Is it through somebody calling or texting and checking in on you? Or is it through somebody reminding you to take a nap if you're tired? Right? There's a lot of different ways that we can receive support. And we really want to capitalize on all of the versions of support that are out there for us. And finally, we create a maintenance plan, a mind-body health maintenance plan. And this allows all of the skills that have been learned all of the awareness that's been developed through the 8 dimensions of wellness to come together in one place to support wellness and to maintain it. And so, like I mentioned, these are flexible. They can be done whenever the participant is ready and if they become ready on their own time or together, but really remembering that this is the choice and the voice of the participant and that they have the ultimate say in what goes on in the programming. So through the program, right, through those 90 days, through the weekly visits, we hope to accomplish a couple of things. Primarily, and like we made the focus on in this presentation, is the understanding of the process recovery as existing on the continuum. Maintaining that idea that it's okay if we move forward and then move back, right? And we want everybody to also learn that mind-body health is multidimensional, right? It's not just the way that we're feeling, it's the way that our environment impacts us. It's the way that our spirituality impacts us. We also hope to give some self-management activities, right? We want to encourage folks to believe that they have the ability, that they have the tools to move towards wellness on the continuum. And we're going to strengthen that individual's agency for maintaining their own wellness in the continuum, using those support systems that they've developed and raising the expectations of those support systems, right? Knowing who we can turn to and who's there as a healthy support. We also hope that this program reduces unnecessary emergency room visits and reduces the need for readmission to the hospital, right? Being able to lean on that support system rather than seeking hospitalization. And finally, as a pre-transition program, we hope that through implementing mental health community partners, it provides a smooth and successful transition back to their family, back to the community, and back to those healthy supporters. And so, as we mentioned, this is a training, right? This is a training that provides us with a certification and brings us a program to bring back to the agencies that we work for and back to the families that we work with. And so a certified mental health community partner will focus on all of these learning objectives. And the ultimate goal is to provide successful engagement, right? We know that without successful engagement, it's really hard to work with families. And a lot of families have been traumatized by the healthcare system, right? By the in and out of hospitalizations. And so through these learning objectives, we learn the way to engage with families in a meaningful way and in a trauma-informed way. And so you'll see some of these objectives in the training and some of the topics that will be covered, such as person-centered planning, deep listening, motivational interviewing, trauma and traumatic stress, and trauma-informed responses. And so all of these are covered through a 5-day training that enables you to successfully engage families. And so this training certification, like I mentioned, it occurs over 21 hours. So it can be done multiple ways. We offer it either fully online or fully in person. If we're doing it in person, it's 3 full days of training. And online, it's 15 hours of training Monday through Friday with some offline assignments. And through attending this training, not only are you getting certified, not only are you able to take this program back to your agency or the families that you work with, but you're also able to receive 20 renewable clock credit hours towards certain professional certifications. So that includes peer support specialists, CASACs, etc. And we like to make sure that we are available to you. And so not only do you take this certification, get the program, get those hours towards your licensures, but we're also there for you as a support system. And so we hold Friday forums to network, and this is with all of the mental health community partners that are certified. We are training over 480 of these mental health community partners. And so we'll have a large network to work with. We'll also have your agency listed on our website, a directory of certified mental health community partners. You'll receive an invitation to our exciting Family Engagement Summit, where we'll bring together all of our coaches and mental health community partners together for professional development and team building. And additionally, if you're certified as a mental health community partner for free right now during this training period, you'll also receive your renewal certification at no cost as well. Finally, if you are trained as a mental health community partner during this time, then we offer you the opportunity to be dual certified as a care path coach through a reduced hour training. And so you'll be dual certified and able to provide those 6 months of full support that Michelle had mentioned earlier. And so just to wrap up, the mental health community partners program supports adults and youth over the age of 12 as they transition from the community from a treatment setting back to the community, right? They get to choose who they want to participate in the program with them. And we use this whole family relational approach to recovery and mind-body health throughout that program. It's going to result in reduced emergency room visits, rehospitalizations, and successful engagement with their community and their support system. And as Michelle mentioned, Mental Health Community Partners supports the well-being not only of the families that we're working with, but also of the partners. And so I know we're kind of short on time, but I can open up the chat for any questions. And you can find our contact information. We're glad to answer questions or come together for an additional Zoom meeting if you have additional questions. Finally, if you're interested today, you can scan this QR code on the screen, or you can go to our website to sign up to become a partner site and to take this training and become certified as a mental health community partner.
Megan, Michelle, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Ms. Emer said it exactly. This is really necessary for kinship caregivers right now. Really helpful information. We will be circulating the PowerPoint. So if anybody's got that interest, they have their phone out, they can scan that QR code or get right in touch with Megan or Michelle about next steps for this. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody on the webinar today, for taking the time to join us today. It'll be available via video tomorrow, and the YouTube link and the slides will come to everybody that signed up for today's webinar at some point tomorrow. So thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon, and we will see you in January.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, everyone.